Welcome back to Simply Holistic. Dr. Tony here. So last video we went into some of the hormones, mostly the steroid hormones, mostly the sexual hormones, and how that relates to your health, to your daily health, even things like your blood pressure readings and all kinds of stuff. Go back and watch that video and see. Now, there are 64 that we know of other hormones here that we're going to glance over because I ain't going to be able to in this video go dive deep into any single one of them. We do test, though. I want to say this up front too. Excuse me. We do blood test for a lot of these hormones, the levels of them. Okay, first there are signs that your body will show on this exam table. There are signs that your body will show if something is off in some of these hormones. And I look for and I document some of these signs, even if it doesn't make sense to the naked eye what I'm seeing, or in documentation, well, what's that mean, There are signs that the body shows about some of these hormones that tell us in which direction to possibly look deeper into your health issues. And then, depending on what we see with the physical exam, then we can blood test many of these hormones. Well, I should say all, but then some of these hormonal tests, the prices of them, I just couldn't. I as helpful as some of them would, as helpful as they would be, the prices that I see on some of them, holy cow! I will do other hormones like around them before I actually do that hormone, because we're talking about hundreds of dollars just for one single hormone test. Why some of them are that expensive? I'm not in the lab. I don't know. But through this office, we do test for a lot of these hormones, the levels where they are, because it tells me things like, how's your adrenal health? Is there an adrenal tumor we need to mess with? Or is the adrenal in fatigue or adrenal failure? What's going on with the adrenal gland? What about the pineal gland? Is there a tumor there in that gland? Is that gland not functioning? What's going on with it? Is it off balance? The thyroid gland. Test deeper into that. We will already, from the initial standard blood test, we will already have an idea of how your thyroid is functioning in general. But if we need to take a deeper dive, we can do that too. See really what's going on with the thyroid. But the thing is, in my view, the thyroid is not acting on its own anyway. It is acting on the direction of other glands, such as the pituitary. It's acting on the direction of other chemical messengers, signals. So, regardless of what the thyroid is doing or not doing, it is being dictated to by something else. So we can take a deeper dive into thyroid, and I do use a thyroid supplement to help balance it out. But the reality is, if you don't want to be on that thyroid mixture forever, we need to look beyond the thyroid to see what is triggering the thyroid to do what it's doing. Okay, moving on. Blood. The blood itself has hormones, and we can test those. Pancreas. I do some pancreatic work in here. We start that pretty quick because I'm looking for things like diabetes or pituitary tumors. So the pancreatic functioning. There are hormones that tell us that. Testes, fat tissue. We can blood test hormones that can tell us about your current fat tissue. Pituitary, I did mention that already. Anterior, and there are different parts of the pituitary. Anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary. We need to actually just check, and there's another one too. We need to actually check these multiple areas of your pituitary. There are hormones that each one produces. And we can check the levels of those hormones to really see how your pituitary is doing. If your pituitary is healthy, if there's a tumor there, what's going on with it? The liver, same way, there are hormones specific to that we can test. Heart, oh, we got to watch that one. Your GI tract, the digestive tract, there are hormones specific to your digestive tract. Kidney hormones, that's in our standard test. Cerebral cortex, your brain. There's a hormone specific to that. So yes, we need to keep an eye on what's going on with that one. Stomach, okay, pancreas again, hypothalamus, liver, placenta for the babies. More fat tissue, pituitary, small intestine, skeleton. There is a test we can do to check the health of your skeleton. The hormones controlling the health of your skeleton. Okay, that's the kidneys. The Langerhans, that's the kidneys. Okay, renal tissues. There's a hormone for that. So we can and will test many of these hormones. If I see between your blood test, your blood work, and the physical exam, if I see something in your body that dictates that I look deeper into one of these areas, I'm going to say, okay, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I want us to test, because we need to see where it's at. Then I suggest, obviously, that we get the test done so that we can look into your body and either confirm or rule out what your body seems to be showing. Really, that's what these blood tests are for. Either confirms, okay, yes, we're looking at that. All right, now let's start treating that. Or this is that way. This confirms that. What triggered that? Let me look into that area. Or it rules it out. Okay, oh, hey, it came back good, came back clean. Guess what? You don't have this issue to worry about. We just ruled it out. Boom, gone. That's what the blood tests are actually for. You know, it seems scary. It seems complicated. But that's really what these blood tests are actually for, just to either rule something out or confirm, and okay, we need to focus here with the treatment, or okay, this is this way, and let's look beyond that and see what triggered that. Either way, it's still about treatment, because if we didn't rule it out, that means it's there, and somehow we need to treat it. But which way do we treat it? Do we treat that directly, or do we treat whatever the trigger was, if there was a trigger? An outside trigger. Of course there was a trigger. If there was an outside of that gland trigger or organ trigger. So, adrenaline comes from your adrenal gland. It affects your blood pressure, affects your fat tissue, affects your protein tissue, actually. Blood pressure, though, is a big one. Adrenaline. It definitely impacts your blood pressure. Melatonin. From the pineal gland, your sleep-wake cycle. You have trouble going to sleep or waking up? Could be to do, okay, most likely, I know I say could be. It is most likely tied to this. The other side of this is the cortisol. So, then the question is your melatonin really off? Is the pineal gland off, or is it your cortisol? See, then I have to figure out, for your body, if you're having trouble sleeping or waking up, going to sleep or waking up, sleeping too much, which way is it that your body is going? I have to figure that out. Because it might be the melatonin, it might not. Was that the trigger? Well, we can test that and see what the level is, though. All right, going back to the adrenal gland, we had adrenaline, now noradrenaline. Or adrenaline is also, by the way, adrenaline is also epinephrine. So noradrenaline is norepinephrine. Both from the adrenal, both impact your blood pressure. Moving on to the thyroid, we have T3, which T3 specifically increases your metabolism. If your thyroid health is good, then the T3 should be good. If the thyroid health is going hypo or hyper, the T3 is most likely going to be off. If the T3 is right, it increases your metabolism. If it's not, well, that means it's going to decrease your metabolism. Well, what's metabolism? That's your energy. That's how alive each of your body's cells are, your metabolism. The metabolism is going on inside each of your cells. And I've said that on many videos. Inside of each of your cells, the power plant inside each cell is your metabolism. So if the T3, your thyroid, is increasing your metabolism, if it's right, if the T3 is off, then the metabolism is not going to be increased. And if it's not increased, it's going to be decreased. That means your energy then goes, okay? Thyroid again, T4. Similar effect to T3, but much weaker. So, and it's converted to T3 in some cells. So, T4, see, in my opinion, T4, testing it, don't really need to. It gets converted to T3 anyway. It does the same thing as T3, but at a much weaker level. So, if we're going to check that, test the T3. See where the T3 is at. Okay, next. Substantia nigra, DA, okay, the abbreviation. Dopamine. Look over enough columns here. Dopamine. Regulation of cellular camp levels and prolactin antagonist. Prolactin is another story too. Prolactin is to do with the pituitary, which we'll get to later here anyway. And it's something that we test for pituitary tumors, dopamine. System-wide, your whole body uses it, amino acid derivative. Something else that we need to be aware of, prostaglandins, blood vessels. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. Okay. Intracellular signal transduction. Intracellular signal transduction. Your dopamine. The fluid between your cells. Because there's not just open empty space there. Actually, there's not. There's fluid in there. Cushioning, but also conducting. Nerve synapses. Nerve fiber stops, but here's where the nerve signal needs to go to, so the nerve synapses. There's fluid in there. This is where your dopamine comes into play. So it's to do with the nerve conduction is what I was getting ready to say. Electrical. It's to do with your electrical system. Nerve fibers, electrical. Dopamine is to do with your electrical system. Obviously, if that's off, you're either going to be really sensitive to stuff, or your pain tolerance is going to be through the roof because you ain't going to feel nothing. Okay. Prostaglandins, vasodilation. Tried to skip ahead. Vasodilation, your veins. So these hormones contribute to how healthy or unhealthy your veins actually are. The vasodilation is something that I it's something I look at with each of your visits. Your blood pressure alone tells me a lot about your vasodilation, which then in turn, because of the hormones, tells us about the prostaglandins. If your vein health, is not where it should be is going to show up here. The vasodilation actually comes through in your blood pressure readings. Well, how, Doc? It's how I look at the numbers. I might be running out of time. I am running out of time. Okay. Blood hormones, leukotrienes, increase vascular permeability. This is to do with your white blood cells. So you need healthy white blood cells, which, by the way, come from the marrow, so you need healthy bones. So this blood hormone is directly tied to your bone marrow health. If you're going through treatment that destroys the bone marrow, okay, increased vascular permeability. What's this mean? This is going to also directly impact your daily blood pressure. Increasing the vascular permeability means it's going to make your vessels more flexible and thereby lower your blood pressure. It's a good thing, well, to an extent. For most of you, it's a good thing. Prostacyclin, it probably should say blood, but they don't categorize it that way. Okay. Vasodilation, I don't know why they didn't put that on there. Should have. It goes right along with blood. Okay, anyway. Vasodilation, again. So, like the prostaglandins, this has to do with your vasodilation platelet activation inhibitor. So, we have 3 so far, and there's going to be another one, that have to do with the health of your veins, how well the vessels hold up as the blood's being pumped through them or as the blood's sitting still. So the next one for that, this is also to do with the blood, with the platelets. Thromboxane, blood vasoconstriction, platelet aggregation, gathers the platelets together. Vasoconstriction. So, of course, on the one hand, to do with your blood pressure, we need to control the vasodilation to increase the permeability to help lower the blood pressure. But there are times, like if your cortisol is going to kick into gear, your vessels need to be able to contain. If your cortisol kicks into gear, your heart's going to start racing. It's going to start pounding. It's going to be pumping the blood through. Well, we actually at that moment don't necessarily need veins that are just going to be so permeable that the blood boom through and the vein just goes. Whew. We don't need that. Then we're looking at the possibility of like aneurysms. The vein just so vasoconstriction. We still got to hold the vein together. This hormone is going to help with the strength of the vessel to hold the vessel together to contain the blood. As the cortisol kicks in and your blood goes boom, your heart. The cortisol kicks in and your heart goes boom to pump that blood. The blood needs to be contained within that vessel, so then this constriction is going to help it hold it together. So the vessel stays together, the blood gets carried through. On the other hand, of course, then it could go the other way and say your blood pressure is going higher because we are really constricting that nail to the point that your blood can barely flow through. We don't want that extreme. Amylin. This is for your pancreatic function. Slowing down gastric emptying, inhibition of digestion secretion to reduce food intake. Reduce the speed that your stomach is operating. So your stomach doesn't immediately dump everything, all of its contents into the intestines for digestion. So it slows down the digestion itself, holds it in your stomach, and reduces your food intake, so by reducing your appetite. Amylin. Sometimes this is a good thing, sometimes not. Something else that we can test, and in many cases we probably do need to test it to see if you complain of like no appetite, or you complain that your yeah, go ahead and finish it. Complain that your digestion, something's off with your digestion. Well, most likely that's actually going to be in the intestines, not the stomach. But if something feels off in your digestion, this is something else that we can test to see if it's to do with your stomach or to do with the intestines, because it would be two different things. But yes, we could test this just to see where it's at. I had to finish the thought that was going through my head. Anti-Mullerian hormone. To do with the testes, stops the release of prolactin and TRH from the anterior pituitary. Oh, here's okay, we need to hit this one. Adiponectin from your fat tissue, adipose tissue, technically, fat tissue, regulating glucose levels. This is coming from your fat tissue, and the entire purpose, like fiber, but fiber is not a hormone. Fiber is a nutrient that does this. This is a hormone that regulates blood sugar levels. Comes from your fat tissue. Comes from your fat tissue. Hormone regulates sugar levels. We don't want more sugar being locked up in the vaults of your fatty tissue. ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, comes from pituitary. Synthesis of corticosteroids, the making of steroids. Forgive me, I hit the mic again. Okay, so the making of corticosteroids, which are your glucocorticoids and your androgens in the adrenocortical cells. So this is in a pituitary hormone. We do test for this because this is one of the things we test for to see if there's a pituitary tumor. It comes from one of the sections of your pituitary. This hormone is used for the making of other hormones. Your androgens, which are your sex hormones, by the way, okay. This is not a sex hormone. Let me clarify that. This here is not a sex hormone, but it contributes, it helps the making of your sex hormones. So this hormone here, the level has to be right in order for your sex hormone to be made at the right levels. Hope that makes sense. Next, AGT, angiotensinogen, or angiotensin. This comes from your liver. Vasoconstriction. Also, the release of aldosterone from the adrenal cortex dipsogen. So your adrenal gland the liver has to work with your adrenal gland. The liver then releases this hormone, AGT, which communicates with your adrenal. And so you have your liver and adrenal working together to help control your vessel constriction, blood vessels. The liver and the adrenal, so if you're in adrenal fatigue or failure, liver and the adrenal have to work together to control your blood vessel constriction. ADH, antidiuretic hormone, yes, we test for this as well. In fact, this is a specific test for another kind of diabetes. One the pharmaceutical industry says is rare, but it's another test. It's a test for another kind of diabetes. It comes from your pituitary. This contributes to retention of water in the kidneys and vasoconstriction and the release of the ACTH. Retention of water. Are you catching that? I know it says in kidneys, but if it's retained in the kidneys, it ain't going to flush out anywhere else either. I mean, think about it. It's not going to be retained in the kidneys, but flush out everywhere else. How? It's got to go through your kidneys. Your water in your body has to go through your kidneys to be flushed out. If this hormone, ADH, is retaining the water in your kidneys, what's going to happen with the water in the rest of your body cells? Where is it going to go? Sweat, okay? You can release some that way. Are you going to sweat as much as you pee? So if this is retaining the water in your kidneys, you know, because I have to explain this because I can just see it. It doesn't say water retention, Doc. It says water retention, the retention in the kidneys. Right. So if your kidneys are retaining the water, and the kidneys are processing the urine to get it out of your body, but the kidneys are retaining, so therefore they're not processing, they're not flushing. Your urinary frequency is not where it should be. The urinary frequency has gone in the toilet. If your kidneys are retaining the water, and the rest of the body is trying to process this water to send to the kidneys, but the kidneys are retaining, and follow this. The rest of your cells are flushing out water. They need to release it. They're sending it through the lymph system to the kidneys. The kidneys are getting the water. They're processing it. Then you urinate. That's the normal process, but then the kidneys are retaining. So when the rest of your cells are going, okay, we need to send this to the kidneys and get it flushed out, and the kidneys say, no, hold up, I'm full of water. I can't take any more in. I'm full of water, Take it back. Send it back. If the kidneys are telling the rest of the water to go back to the cells they were in, wouldn't that dictate that the rest of your body is retaining water? But Doc, it just says kidneys retaining water. Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that then dictate that the rest of the body is also retaining water? And if you got water retention in all over your body, and we need to flush that water retention, because that means there's too much water there, the water retention out through your kidneys, but if your kidneys aren't doing that, well, this hormone helps us check to see if your kidneys are doing that or not, this hormone. So we need to test for this hormone because this is a direct figure to tell me of this other supposedly rare, obviously I disagree with the pharmaceutical perspective of that, supposedly rare type of diabetes. If you got a water retention, you're trying to figure out why you can't get rid of it. You're taking water pills, didn't work. You're drinking water, it doesn't work. You're doing everything that you're doing. You're cutting the salt back. You're doing everything that you're doing, and it ain't working. You're still retaining water. What's going on? We probably need to do this test on you. Okay, running out of time again. So with that said, find us at justsimplyholistic.com. Get yourself into our Simply Holistic office. Get our intake papers, fill them out, review. Let us review them with you. Go through our gamut of testing. This part, I admit, is not in our initial gamut of testing. It's not. But we look at a lot of other indicators, and I will see then if this testing needs to be done. Maybe you're not retaining water, or maybe it's from something else. But if you are, and we need to test this, we'll add this onto it and get all this done as well. Better to be safe and find out, right? I mean, that's my view. Let's confirm or rule it out. Okay. Find us at justsimplyholistic.com. Get us into our Simply Holistic office. Let's get you done. Let's see where you are on this. We look forward to seeing and serving you soon.